What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here, and welcome back to the Metallica discography. Today I'm going to be reviewing the band's third studio album, entitled Master of Puppets. Master of Puppets was released on the 3rd of March 1986, and this is the first album to be released through a different record label this time, as Ride the Lightning was the band's last album through the Megaforce Records label. This is the beginning for Metallica to release albums through a legendary label, that being Elektra Records. When I reviewed Ride the Lightning, as I said in my review, this was, to me, the first classic record for Metallica, as I have loved a lot of what the musical balance and improvements of Ride the Lightning's musical presence, and especially when Metallica were growing even better and better as a band. But out of all of the records that are just as unavoidable, but yet still as influential and globally a phenomenon in metal music, this album is, to me, the band's magnum opus. Master of Puppets is also the beginning, in my opinion, when the imagery and the visions into these lyrics were taking things even further into intensity, and the chemistry for the band, musicianship-wise, could not have been as amazing as this. This is the band's final album to be made with the involvement of their mastermind bass player Cliff Burton, who got tragically killed during a touring bus accident while on tour, took his life at 24. But when you think about it, what a finale of effort, talent, and outstanding achievements that Cliff did nail right through the head with this album. Master of Puppets is one of these albums that, I know that may be cliche to say this, but this was one of the beginning phases of falling in love with Metallica, and one of the first albums from this band that I remember buying, just like with And Justice for All. But when I listen to Master of Puppets, this is the record when I will say that this is still one of the most relevant, prolific, versatile, and as a complete form of metal music from the start to the finish. The first track of the album is Battery. As much as I love Fight Fire with Fire, which in my opinion is my favourite opening song from Metallica on any album, but Battery is still as legendary. The exploration into the angry violence and making the reference to the assault and battery, to the artillery, multiple references about the destruction, the instrumentation to this makes this even better. The beginning opens beautifully with the acoustic, I think nylon strung guitars, and the tone to it was gorgeous, and it's pretty much similar to what Fight Fire with Fire was. But when Battery opens things, it's something very minor keyed. The loud crash cymbals and drums to anticipate the fast tempo was so adrenaline driven, and the riffs were chaotic. Hetfield's vocals are absolutely terrific. The distortion to the tempo, and the band here were making a tour de force, some of their most creative peaks. And at the same time, when I listen to Master of Puppets, this album is the most consistent flavour of music. There's nothing weak and bad about this record, and Battery is unstoppable, it's straight to the point, and a stunning, achievable beginning to start any Metallica record. The magnum opus, the legendary title track, Master of Puppets. Now, I know that a lot of people do constantly replay this song over and over and over, especially when people now talk about this being included in the TV show of Stranger Things. But as a song, from the opening complexity of the technical guitar riff and to the ending sounds of the maniac-sounding laughter, everything about this track is infamous, but at one of the greatest achievements Metallica did create as musicians. Master of Puppets deals into the experience onto drug addiction of cocaine, but the way Hetfield sings it is majestic, from verse sections to the catchy, memorable chorus. But my favourite section out of all of these pieces that were attached together across the complexity of this track is the bridge section. The bridge section was wonderful. The clean guitars after the assaulting chorus sections, slowing down the word master, changing the pitch to lower pitching repeats of the word master. That transition, it's beautiful, resonating, and the twin guitar harmonies, solo sections to the build-up with one of Kirk's best ever solos. This is something to behold. Master of Puppets, as iconic, as I said, and as one of the most signature-made songs in Metallica's history, is still a masterpiece. It's quintessential at the same time. No words needed even further to describe this track. Master of Puppets is always one of my top favourite Metallica songs of all time. And how can you not love the title track? Because if you don't, then the album wouldn't be the same. The most pinnacle form of achievement, of quality as musicians, and with the whole presence of this album. The Thing That Should Not Be was inspired with the continuation of the H.P. Lovecraft aspect, making references from the same novel, the Shadow of Innsmouth novel from Lovecraft, on the Ride the Lightning album, continuing the Cthulhu mythos. But the instrumentation to this track is still outstanding, making these lyrics paint. Out of all of the songs on this record, this is one of the heaviest compositions the band did successfully achieve. Love when Metallica were making many different things and create a separate ominous and impending force in destructive nature. The Thing That Should Not Be is a fantastic song. Horrific, violent, and the battering tone of Metallica just never stops, but it is amazing at the same time. And The Thing That Should Not Be is a brilliant follow-up to the title track. Welcome Home Sanitarium. This is one song on this album that, as much as I adore Master of Puppets, this could be the favourite, in my opinion. Although I love everything else of this record, from the beginning to the end, Welcome Home Sanitarium is in another world. I love the intensity, but in a slower and mysterious musical showcasing. The verse sections of the clean guitars and slowing the tempo down, and Hetfield's vocals on this one is so passionate. The chorus, when he sings it, just belts these words out with the tight drums. Progressive nature of this track never ceases to amaze me whenever I listen to this song. It's something similar, I guess, in a bit of like the power ballad from Fade to Black, because it is like an alike vein of instrumentation, but the way this song provides things, puts things into a different context. Lyrically was inspired by the novel of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, just about the the traumatic and scary experience of being caged in a mental institution, and these lyrics were projecting this imagery as perfectly. One of my favourite songs from Metallica of all time as well, like with the title track. Then the next track, Disposable Heroes, one of the other fastest forms of energies to behold, like with the last track from Kill 'Em All and Fight Fire with Fire, etc., and challenging these listeners around us that they just could not stop. They could not stop the thrashathon and the prolific, heavier source. The picking to the soloing is what made this album's track as perfect. Huge vocals from Hetfield, and especially the tone of Hammett's soloing and the bass. They were dominant, haunting, and, twisted to think about these words. But Disposable Heroes is one of the menacing sounds in Metallica's tone here. Leper Messiah is another one which I have enjoyed so much. This is a song into a addressing point of view on the televangelism that was around in the 80s, which is still continuing to this day. Public who are turning themselves into religious people who have been at the same time mindlessly controlled, and they've been told what to do. This is another part of the instrumentation side onto Metallica's style when they can be as creative. And Leper Messiah, out of all of the ones here, probably is one of the other underrated cuts. The rhythmic passageways, and you think with Cliff being involved, he's one of the best examples, and the way he plays into Leper Messiah is majestic. And speaking of that word, the instrumental of Orion, just like with the Call of Cthulhu, is out of this world. One of these tracks that leaves me speechless. And while I did describe the Call of Cthulhu from Ride the Lightning as cinematic, I think this one is, I would say, as emotional, because this instrumental puts me in a different place. But, like I said with music having a language, it's pretty moving when you think about the later directions that this track can give you. When it comes to the virtuosity and the heavy kind of orchestrated inspiration of the song, it's like a climax to finalize something in a complete form. And Orion is a wonderful piece of music. I love the Call of Cthulhu, as I said, but Orion is one of the gems, just like with Master of Puppets and Welcome Home Sanitarium, etc. How can you not love Orion? It's delicate, it's full of balance, this separate emotion. It has a landscape, a soundscape, and you feel like you're there. The music can hold you to your heart. So Orion is one of those songs when you can just play a lot of times and you will never ever get bored with it. This is why Metallica had been an extreme great form of talent, and especially with Cliff. 100%. Then the album finishes with the track Damage Incorporated, and as much as I love so much of this record, Damage Incorporated to me is one of the top 5 best closing tracks from Metallica, just like with the Call of Cthulhu and Dyer's Eve from And Justice for All. Unrelenting amount of violence and the overall experience of the mentality, not stop this uncontrollable form of anger, the anxiety, and everything that surrounds it. Like with lots of the words from the previous tracks, Damage Incorporated finalizes things as a triumphant form. The band were in full swing from the start of Battery and finishing the album with this amazing track. Damage Incorporated is complete to the max in syncopating rhythm sections and pummeling, crunching riffs and the irresistible tone from the chords to the bass. One of the perfect songs to finish off any album in their discography. What a perfect number to finish off this album. The album's production is, in my opinion, one of their absolute best as well. I always have made a lot of props to Hetfield vocally, and the whole sound of the band here. So chaotic, cleverly performed, and as dynamic. Master of Puppets by Metallica is the masterpiece of all of their albums across their discography. And, you know, like I said, it's one of these albums later on in a legendary band's discography that still remains as one of the greatest things that metal has been very gratefully gracious to hear and achieve into its own stardom. Master of Puppets by Metallica is everything that the band has made in their purest form. I'm going to give Master of Puppets by Metallica an obvious rating, a 10 out of 10. Just one of these albums, like with Dark Side of the Moon, with Sgt. Pepper, with Thriller, any album that many people see as one of the best things ever, Master of Puppets is one of those albums. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.